let's bring in Jason. He can also share another terrible take with us before we dive into the Dolphins. So, Jason, are you excited for Raw on the Roof? Like, what is your take on this wrestling stuff, sir?
I don't watch much wrestling anymore, but before I get into that, thank you so much for having me, Alex.
Our pleasure.
Sean, pleasure listening to both of you guys. But, I mean, come on. Field of Dreams is the greatest sports movie of all time. And this take is just off. You're talking about, the Hammerstein boat. No. You want to go with the No Holds Barred movie set. Remember No Holds Barred?
I do. Well, wasn't Hulk Hogan was in that movie? Yeah.
You're going to correlate a baseball movie to where Exactly right. And the way that you do it, whoever the main event is, the body slam has to bring the whole ring down, just like in the movie.
Definitely. Or just throw somebody, or do the event on the roof and just throw somebody off the roof. Like, is Mick Foley still around?
Just throw McMahon off, and then you're good.
Oh, man. And by the way, I was thinking about this. If we're going to do more off-site sporting events, because I thought the Field of Dream things was really cool, I'll tell you one I would like to see. I would love at some point, preferably a regular season game, but even preseason might be okay as well, for the Miami Heat to play a game on one of Mickey Arison's cruise ships. How badass would that be? You said those ships are big enough, man. You set up the full court on the Carnival ship, and you have to add like the whole extra element of like bucking with the waves. So maybe Max Strus wouldn't be hitting as many 3-point shots, or he would have to figure out the whole equilibrium thing. But how badass would it be to watch a Heat basketball game and like some Caribbean island is off in the background when they're playing on the deck of a Carnival ship? That we need to make that happen like yesterday, Sean.
And when you brought that up, it made me think of Lex Luger body slamming Yokozuna on July 4th on the, I think it was the Intrepid battleship carrier.
Wow.
Is where they threw him in and he came in, Mr. USA, body slammed him, and then 3 weeks later he was the narcissist.
Wow. All right. So one more terrible take I have to air. And Jason, you tell me if you think this is legit. So International Champions Cup tweeted this. According to Hype Beast, the tissue that was used by Lionel Messi in his farewell Barcelona press conference was picked up by an individual and is now being auctioned for $1 million. Like, I don't know if that's like an Onion headline that International Champions Cup fell for and like they shared it. Like, I understand Messi, literally one of the most famous human beings on planet Earth. I get that, but is a snot-filled tear-filled tissue really worth anything, no matter who it came from? You know what probably happened here, Jason? Somebody probably really did take the tissue and they put it up like on eBay asking for $1 million, but the real bids are going to be like $11.
I want to know who's in the market. I mean, in the era of COVID, I want to know who's in the market for something like that.
That's a great question, because the other thing is, like, does it come with a certificate of authenticity? Because like, if you want to have that memorabilia in your home, like someone comes over, that would require way too much explaining, right? It's one thing, like my grandfather had a baseball that was signed by Babe Ruth, and that was a really quick conversation starter. Like, someone comes over to your house, here's my Babe Ruth signed baseball. Oh my God, that's incredible. So how do you do this with the Messi tissue? Like, someone's over, you're like, hey, come over here. Let me show this to you. That looks like a used Kleenex, sir. But you know whose used Kleenex that is? That wiped the snot and the tears of one of the greatest footballers of all time, Lionel Messi. Like, bro, I'm at a loss, right? Maybe if it was like, a signed photo of Messi, that's one thing. But the used tissue,
it kind of reminds me of, when we were growing up, Alex. I know we're in the same age range. Remember when Michael Jordan's cologne, the rumor was it was the sweat dripped in each bottle? So that at least you could spread that out. You could use that for a month, half a year, depending on your cologne distribution. But I'm off the tissue idea. Too many germs normally, but in COVID, forget about it.
I wonder if people thought the Jordan cologne made them better at basketball. Like, if I can literally have Michael Jordan sweat in my armpits, I will play basketball like him.
There was the guy you played basketball with Jordan sneakers, the Bull shorts, the Jordan jersey, Jordan bandana, and was like 1 for 19 during the game.
That is too funny. Oh man. All right. So we have let me give the official intro. Jason Sarney, who's an awesome friend and an awesome dude. Finmaniacs.com is where you find his work. Jason, first, I know this isn't a Dolphin story, but Tim Tebow was cut today, and that's making news. And he, like, even getting released, the guy is polarizing because, like, there are a lot of Tebow haters out there who wanted him to get cut, and, like, they're still slandering the guy even though you got what you wanted. Like, he's been released. What do you make of this whole experiment? Because I think at least part of it was a calculated attempt to take some of the spotlight away from Trevor Lawrence, because if that was part of it, it worked, because everyone was talking about Tebow and nobody was talking about the number 1 overall pick. So it took a lot of pressure away from him.
I love that take. That's very cerebral of the organization, and in a marketing sense, home run, because they made the money and they're still going to liquidate all their merchandise and make money off it, because
Right.
They're still going to make money off it. Like, I guarantee you, if there's numbers, I mean, who does this? Darren Ravel, well, he'll tweet this, I'm sure. We're going to see the money that Tim Tebow generated for Jacksonville. So in that sense, and in what you just said, I love it. But from putting stuff on film, I mean, woo,
Those blocks. Oh my God.
I'd be praying for Tebow that, he just, Twitter goes down permanently and all social media goes down permanently, because that's going to be his legacy. Unfortunately, in the NFL, was a horrible tight end block. And, I don't know. Win for the Jaguars. Big loss for Tebow, I think.
Yeah, no, well said. And yeah, the viral videos, yeah, there was one, I think the one you're talking about, and then someone actually released a second block, which was on the very next play, which was just as bad. And it's like, oh man, I fully understand why they cut him loose. But let's talk some Miami Dolphins football. And I had the pleasure, by the way, of joining Jason and some awesome folks, including one of our viewers, Hassam Patel, was on the panel. It was really cool. I joined you guys for a little pregame stream before Dolphins Bears this past week. Let's start with the offensive line, because people are talking about it, Jason, especially. I didn't think it was all bad from the O-line, but Austin Jackson really struggled. And I've defended him a lot coming off of last year, where he was good at times, but was also injured at times last year. And after giving bone marrow to his sister, I understand the recovery from that is no picnic. So I am willing to be patient with Jackson. That was not a good performance, though. Is he top for you? And what are the biggest concerns you have on that O-line?
Well, the biggest concerns that I have aren't really individually. These guys still have to come into their own. They still have a month until week 1. So individually, you expect a guy like Austin Jackson, a first rounder, a young kid, recovering fully from what you mentioned, the bone marrow transplant, which is admirable. And this is a USC tackle, so I expect him to be okay. But what worries or concerns me as the whole is we don't know who the 5 are or where the 5 are. So this is basically an experiment between position flexibility, positionless football, as Flores has always said, versus getting one guy who can master the left tackle spot, getting one guy who can master the guard spot, left guard, right guard. So this is still an experiment. They used 5 different combinations last year, Alex, of offensive linemen, 5 different combinations. Like one of them 5 times, one of them 3 times, and you had 2 or 3 guys really rotate around, not just injury, just rotate around. So the identity of each position has to be kind of defined. And today we saw that Liam Eichenberg now is going to be a right tackle and moved out of the guard spot, which made me very happy, because I would love, and this is to me just the way I like to think, if you have a USC and a Notre Dame bookend tackle, that is, to me, that's poetic. That's football poetry right there. Because then you could have those 2 guys battle and say, oh, you didn't let Tua get – oh, neither did I. Oh, well, let's go again. You know what I mean? Why not? Because you got the right side being protected, which is the blind side, hopefully, by the Mauler and Liam Eichenberg. And you got Jackson hopefully not having that much reliance on protecting the blind side, because he might be a little bit more of that project. I think Liam's could be better, frankly. So I like the potential of Liam on the right side. And then the guards still have to be figured out between Kinley, Hunt, what they're doing. I love Dieter at the center spot because I think he's going to earn the job. And then we'll see what Jesse Davis could do along with Austin Jackson. It's very up in the air right now.
Let's talk Tua, who I thought was fine. Like I thought he was fine in that game, but it's crazy to me how the Tua narrative has just gotten out of control. Where people are just like they have the tweets and the drafts already to slander the guy, and I think a lot of people didn't even watch the game. They just looked at the passer rating and they saw the clip of the interception, which was not good. Like he was late on that play in every aspect of it. Late with his read, shouldn't have thrown that football. The interception was bad. Other than that, I thought he was fine. And we're talking about the first preseason game. How did you evaluate his performance there? And you can add into that as well what we've been seeing and hearing about him in camp. How do you think Tua is doing to start off this season?
I think he's doing better than we would have hoped progression-wise, slightly better, which is good. So I'm not going to go crazy and say he's, the second coming of Dan Marino or Steve Young, what have you. But I think that if you had to do that graph of a line, it's a little bit more green than it is normal colored. You know what I mean? He's starting out well. He made that mistake, which was a little bit of a hesitancy mistake. That's heady. That wasn't a mechanic mistake. It wasn't a bad, horrible duck of a ball. He's got to let it loose. And I think once he starts to let it loose and rely a bit more on his guys, and I'm not going to give Adam Shaheen a complete pass because he just kind of hung out in the end zone 2 feet deep and waited for the ball. He could have maybe made a little bit more of a play, at least negated the interception, make it an incomplete pass. But it was a mistake. It's on Tua 90%, 10 to Shaheen. He's been balling in practice. And I do think that if they play call the co-offensive coordinators to his strength, we're going to see open plays like the 50-yard pass to Gesicki, which really was a 25-yard, 30-yard throw that Gesicki turned around after the fact, got some yak to it. Get yards after the catch. That's, I think, the bread and butter. Throw those very short routes to 25-yard passes and let your guys do the rest of the work.
It's been like almost 3 weeks since camp opened up, and there hasn't been like a whole lot of consistency in the health of the wide receiving core. Now, the Dolphins are going to have some tough decisions to make on who to let go because on paper, you've got a really deep receiving room. But at what point, and the latest injury was Allen Hurns, who's going to be out like 3 months with a wrist. So he may end up being one of the odd men out here. But at what point do you kind of worry about the chemistry of the wide receiver group and their chemistry with Tua heading into the regular season when it's like day by day, we don't know who's healthy enough to practice from that room?
Got about 14 to 13 guys in that room right now. Malcolm Perry, I guess, is listed as a punt returner, wide receiver, running back, what have you. But I think what we're going to see is strategic usage of the NFL rules, meaning the PUP list, the IR list, what you might be able to do with practice squad players for the COVID protocols. What I mean by that is if you look at who's injured or who's banged up, it's literally 4 of the top 5 or 6 wide receivers that you hope to see. You have Will Fuller banged up, Devontae Parker banged up, Preston Williams PUP'd, Albert Wilson, as balled out as he'd been playing, he's still nicked up, what have you. And then you got guys like Bowden, you got Merritt, you got Loxley, you got Hollins, Foster. There's a million people in Jakeem Grant. So what I really think is going to happen is you're going to strategically see Will Fuller suspended week 1. That's not strategic, that's rules. And then you're going to see Preston Williams on the PUP or the IR after making the team. This is presumption, So really week 2, you have to start with 2 of those top 5 or 6 guys out. But they're kept on ice and they're kept in your roster, So to me, it's a front office's dream, sort of, to evaluate more people without having to cut them or release them. Your Jakeem Grants, your Merritts, your Isaiah Fords. Hurns obviously is not going to be a Dolphin. I mean, let's face it. Yeah. Whatever they have to do, his days might have been over with the Dolphins. I wish him the best, but I just don't see him finishing his career on the team. And all of a sudden, you have about 9 guys who could be a Dolphin. I think it's going to around 7 or 8, but that'll happen week 3 or 4 when Preston, I believe, will hopefully come off that list. Someone's going to have to go, if not cut already. So it's going to be interesting, but I wouldn't worry too much about the other injuries other than obviously Preston, who is out right now.
I got to ask you, big picture for the season to come. I saw these FPI numbers from ESPN, and our pal Kyle Krabs published this on his website, DolphinsWire.com. I don't know how these stat nerds come up with some of these things, but here is the Dolphins' odds according to ESPN FPI just to make the playoffs are 54.1%, which is pretty good. Like you'll take better than a coin flip. And as far as making the playoffs go, they have the second best odds in the AFC East behind Buffalo. This is where it gets inconsistent. Like, I don't understand how they come up with this. So to win the division, they've got the third best odds behind Buffalo and New England at 22.7%. So I don't understand how they could have the second best odds in the division to make the playoffs, but the third best odds to win the division. I guess that's over my head and above my pay grade. But those are some numbers to chew on there, Jason. And I do obviously agree with Buffalo being the favorite in the AFC East. So what's your prediction on where the Dolphins finish in the division, and will they get in or sneak in at the very least to the playoffs?
I do think, look, Buffalo is a very good team. That's, it is what it is. And I think that they're a 13-win team, especially when you consider that means they'll have 4 losses. So, yeah, I think Buffalo wins the division, even at 12 wins. I think the Dolphins are in the 10-11 win category, which, Alex, I think gets them. Listen, we're going to be watching nail-biting football week 15, 16, 17. 18. It is what it is,
That's right. We got 18 weeks.
We got 18 weeks.
That's weird to say. Week 18.
I'm like, week 18.
Week 18.
Is there really an 18? Yes, there is.
Yeah.
But we're going to be watching the last month, doing all the fun math as per usual, unless they run the table 5 in a row and start the season off 5-0, which I listen, stamp your ticket to the Super Bowl if that happens, because I don't think that's happening. Yeah. So, yeah, we're looking at 11 wins, I think, max, but hopeful more.
Well, and I want to ask you as well that question that came in from Ninja Viking, because it's a good one. Does Shaquem Griffin make this team?
I think he does. I think that he was the guy who knocked that ball out on the Needham wrap-up tackle in the game against Chicago. So he's a terrific story. We all know that, but he's a very good football player. I think they have a very good and interesting linebacker group. A lot of new faces other than Shaquem Grant. More than half the room is pretty much new, especially when you consider rookie outside edge rusher, defensive end, outside linebacker. They use Jalen Phillips. You got Bernard McKinney. You have Scarlett. You got new guys who are really jumping into the mix. But I do think that Griffin makes the team because he could be an asset really multiple phases of the game.
Well, this is great stuff. Make sure you check out Jason at finmaniacs.com. What's the Twitter handle, Jason? Want to make sure we throw that out as well.
I've changed it so many times, Alex. Believe it or not, I got to literally look at it to make sure I don't have a dot or an underscore that I don't say.
Hold on. I can check it here.
No, it's at Jason_Sarney, just to keep everyone up on their toes. And, it's like passwords. You got to change it every 5 months.
I can verify it. I'm looking at it right now. Jason_Sarney. He's a great follow and, of course, a great read at finmaniacs.com. Thank you so much for the time, sir. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, Alex. Have a good one. Always a pleasure.